I always imagined that by my late 30s, things would be smooth sailing, that I'd have everything figured out. But life, as I painfully learned, is incredibly unpredictable, and obstacles can happen at any age. I was 39 years old when the man I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with ended everything. It was a beautiful summer day, and my partner of nearly 10 years and I flew to a small private island in South Asia, the kind of place so secluded you won't find it on Google Maps. It was hidden, exclusive, our secret escape. It was meant to be our perfect summer escape, a luxurious private resort. We spent days soaking up the sun, laying by the beach, lounging on pristine beaches, working out in the gym, and enjoying breathtaking sunsets by the pool, watching the sky melt into the ocean. It felt like a dream, the culmination of a decade together. Everything looked perfect until it wasn't. But on the very last day, just before we were scheduled to leave the resort, my partner told me the truth. He wanted to break up. On our last day at the resort, he sat me down and told me the truth. He wanted to break up. There were no signs, no warning, just a quiet end to nearly a decade. I was stunned. I had no words, and somehow we still boarded the same flight home together. I was absolutely shocked and speechless. How could this be happening now in this place after all this time? We still continued our trip for a few more days until we finally flew back home, but everything felt like a haze of disbelief and pain. After nearly 10 years together, it ended with a single conversation, and I didn't see it coming. When we got back, I had to pack up all my belongings from his place, the place we'd once called home. The immediate aftermath was brutal. I struggled to pack all my belongings from his place, feeling a profound sense of loss and displacement. I moved back in with my parents. Moving back in with my parents felt like a step backward, almost a public acknowledgement of my failure. I felt like a failure, ashamed, embarrassed. It was shameful, almost faceless, to talk to my family, as he had been a part of my side of the family for nearly 10 years. He was part of my family for so long, and now I didn't know how to explain anything to them. The grief was overwhelming, unlike anything I had experienced before. I felt vulnerable, helpless, and utterly hopeless. I truly believed he was the one, my lifetime partner to spend the rest of my life with. My dreams, my goals, my aspirations, they all included him. And suddenly I was single at 39, and all the negative thoughts began to flood my mind. I couldn't believe this was happening to me because it had happened before. A vivid, painful memory hit me. I got dumped in my mid-20s, a decade and a half prior. I had flown to another country to meet my boyfriend at the time, excited to see him. The very night I arrived at the hotel, he cried and told me he had met someone else. He then left me alone in that hotel for the entire weekend. Yes, I got dumped twice. The shock, the disbelief, it was a sickeningly familiar feeling. This second heartbreak plunged me even deeper into my dark side. I was drinking day and night, barely leaving the house or meeting people unless it was absolutely work-related. I was just drinking to numb myself, to escape the unbearable pain. I felt utterly useless in every possible way. What followed was the darkest period of my life. I drank day and night. I barely left the house unless I absolutely had to for work. No friends, no hobbies, no light. I was just numb. I wasn't living. I was disappearing. I stood in front of the mirror and I barely recognized myself. My face wasn't mine anymore. My eyes were empty, devoid of soul, puffy from constant crying. I couldn't see things clearly. I couldn't walk straight. I couldn't eat. All I consumed was alcohol, not even water. It was a terrifying realization of how far I had fallen. I couldn't walk straight. I hadn't eaten, just alcohol. No water, no self. One morning, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Not physically, but emotionally. I didn't want to live like this. I wanted to laugh again, to stand on my own 2 feet. I wanted to prove to myself that I could rebuild. And then something snapped. I whispered to myself, I don't want to feel ugly anymore. Not just in looks, in soul. I wanted to live again, for me, to smile again, for real. But then it hit me, a powerful, undeniable thought. I didn't want to feel ugly anymore. I didn't want to live like this. That moment, seeing myself so lost and broken, became a strange kind of catalyst. It was the lowest I had been, and from that point, there was nowhere to go but up. I knew I had to make a change. I wanted to live for myself again. I wanted to be independent, to feel joy, to smile authentically. It wasn't about getting him back or proving anything to anyone else. It was about reclaiming my own life. I realized that this painful setback, this double heartbreak, could actually be a powerful push towards becoming the person I was truly meant to be. I had to deal with the situation head on, accept the reality of what had happened, and focus on what I could control. My grandma used to say, deal with business, you can always cry later. While it sounds harsh, it was exactly the mindset I needed. I had to focus on the practical things to regain stability and safety. The thought of stepping out of my comfort zone was terrifying, but I knew that true growth doesn't happen in comfort. I needed to prove to myself that I could gather my life, that I could be okay without a partner. The idea of solo travel, something I'd always dreamed of but never dared to do, started to take root. It was a radical thought, venturing out into the world completely on my own. It felt like an opportunity to try new things. I realized that by focusing on my own purpose, my own passion, I would become more attractive to myself and to others. This wasn't about seeking external validation to fill a hole within myself, because no person can fill that void. It had to come from within. I had to become confident with myself first. With a mix of trepidation and exhilarating excitement, I gathered my courage. I packed my bags, not for a shared journey, but for my first ever solo adventure. It was a tangible step towards proving to myself that I would get my act together. This wasn't just a trip, it was a declaration of independence, a commitment to myself. I was embracing the willingness to grow, not just for a relationship, but for myself. So I did the scariest thing I could think of. I packed a bag and booked a solo trip, and I left. Alone, no plan, no companion, just me and my broken heart. I wanted to escape, but more than that, I wanted to begin. First solo trip, first steps toward rebuilding. I took Amtrak California Zephyr for the first time. That was my New Year Eve, New Year resolution for that year end. My solo adventure began, and with each new place, each new experience, I felt a sense of liberation I hadn't known in years. I learned to navigate unfamiliar streets, to order food in new languages, to rely solely on myself. Every small victory was a boost to my confidence. This journey, born from not one but 2 heartbreaks, became the catalyst for a new beginning. I proved to myself that I am capable, resilient, and ready for whatever life throws my way. I didn't need anyone to validate me anymore, not a partner, not a forever person. I was enough. Each new city, each new step, I gathered pieces of me. I wasn't lost. I was becoming stronger, wiser, softer, more me than I had ever been. And when I looked back, I realized both of those breakups, they were gifts I didn't ask for, painful, brutal, but necessary. For the first time, I wasn't escaping pain. I was exploring life. I learned that a breakup isn't the end. It's a step closer to finding the person you're truly meant to be, whether that's with someone else or simply being your best self. If you're going through a tough time, remember this: you are stronger than you think. Focus on what you can control, embrace self love, and trust that new opportunities will arise. It's okay to cry, to feel the pain, but don't let it define you for too long. You will be okay, and you will be better than you have ever been. Thank you for joining me on this journey. We still have so many stories to be written. Hi everyone, I am Christin. I'm sharing a deeply personal story with you, a story about heartbreak, resilience, and ultimately finding yourself again when you thought your life was set.